right, Scott, thanks. Another roller coaster day on Wall Street as the markets react to the president's plan to impose more tariffs on Canada. At one point, the Dow was down more than 700 points today. It has recovered down to 478 points by the end of trading.
Stocks fell further at the start of trading Tuesday following Monday's sell-off, Wall Street's worst day so far this year.
On again, off again tariffs, retaliations, cuts at the government, and it is making people feel concerned enough that we could see the economy slow down.
We'll get to more of the stock market coming up on your 5 News at 5. U.S. farmers and grocers are bracing for tariffs to take effect tomorrow on Canadian steel and aluminum. And just today, President increased tariffs from 25% to 50%. It comes as Canada pauses its retaliatory tax on electricity exports. The president has touted fentanyl smuggling and Canada's high taxes on dairy imports from the U.S. as reasons behind this tariff. A former West Fork police officer now accepting his decertification after being found not guilty of negligent homicide. Last year, a jury acquitted Christopher Cordero after a deadly traffic stop that occurred almost 2 years prior. According to the Arkansas Commission on Law Enforcement Standards, Cordero waived his decertification hearing, and they voted unanimously to decertify him. A Washington County judge has set a trial date for next year in the civil case against Dr. Brian Hyatt, a Rogers psychiatrist facing more than 100 lawsuits. Former patients accuse him of coercion, abuse, and holding them against their will at Northwest Medical's behavioral unit in Springdale to fraudulently collect Medicare funds. Judge today granted the plaintiff's request for an August or September trial date next year. Attorneys from both sides told the judge they will work to figure out an exact date that works for both parties. Trump administration says it has the authority now to deport a green card holder due to his involvement in last year's protests against the war in Gaza. As Jared Hill reports, it's ignited protests all around the country.
The White House says the Department of Homeland Security will be arresting more individuals in connection with last year's protests around the war in Gaza.
They have been using intelligence to identify individuals on our nation's colleges and universities, on our college campuses, who have engaged in such behavior and activity, and especially illegal activity. And so I don't have a readout on how many arrests will come, but I do know that DHS is actively working on it.
On Saturday, federal agents arrested Mahmoud Khalil, a Columbia University graduate and green card holder who helped organize pro-Palestinian protests on campus.
This is a movement, an anti-war movement.
Khalil's attorneys call this an attack on free speech.
Mr. Khalil was never accused of a crime. What we have is a case where the government is punishing someone for saying stuff that the government doesn't like.
The White House says Columbia has been given the names of other protesters, but administrators are refusing to help. Columbia has not commented on that claim.
And we expect all America's colleges and universities to comply with this administration's policy.
Federal officials were preparing to deport Khalil until a judge temporarily blocked the order. The 30-year-old was instead sent to a detention center in Louisiana and will not attend tomorrow's court hearing in New York. Jared Hill, CBS News, New York.
Right now, Ukraine has agreed to an immediate 30-day ceasefire as high-stakes talks underway in Saudi Arabia. That's only if Russia accepts that plan. It means the Trump administration will immediately lift its suspension of military aid to Ukraine and its intelligence sharing. The announcement comes a week after the measures were imposed to push Ukrainian President Zelensky to enter talks to end the war with invading Russian forces. Secretary of State Marco Rubio says the U.S. will present the ceasefire offer to the Kremlin.
All right, let's get a check of traffic out there. Happy to report we are free of any accidents. Nothing really unusual out there. Travel times are up to speed all across Northwest Arkansas and the River Valley. A live look along the I-40 bridge over the Arkansas River shows a little bit of volume out there. Not much. We'll have a track of your forecast here coming up in just a few minutes.
New at 4, big changes are happening to the way fans at Arvest Ballpark pay. The Northwest Arkansas Naturals going cashless. Means food, merchandise, and parking will all be card or digital payment only. The ballpark hopes this will enhance experiences and plans to add more payment devices across the ballpark. One area still taking cash payments, and that's the ticket office. The Naturals home opener, by the way, April 8th against the Frisco Rough Riders. Speaking of Arvest Ballpark, tonight is the first ever Arvest Classic between the Springdale and Rogers Heritage baseball programs. 5 News sports reporter Robin Hearn is out at Arvest ahead of the game. Such an exciting day for both of these programs.
Yeah, Darren, it's not every day that a student athlete gets the chance to play on a major ballpark that's seen the likes of some good guys like Bobby Wood Jr., Salvador Perez, just to name a few. But regardless of that, like you said, it's going to be a fun day. The weather is perfect, and the community is coming out for a great event that's going to help both of these programs. From the field to the locker rooms to the stands, this has the feel of what baseball is about. Now, coming into this matchup, Heritage took down Springdale yesterday in their first meeting of the season. But now it's time to put that behind them and hope that some pro ball magic will make this an exciting one to watch. Now, for the coaches, they're just trying to prepare their kids for the game and treat this one like it's a normal game despite the location.
Treat the game the same as it is. Obviously, different games, there's always different noise, and we just try to focus on the actual game and less about everything else. Want them to enjoy it, obviously, but whenever they're in between the lines, really want the game to still be the same.
Well, I think that it's like anything, right? It's a conference game that has big implications. So just making sure that they understand that the bases are still the same part. They're same, mileage apart. They're 90 feet and the mound's 60 feet. And yeah, it's a different backdrop and all the things, but it's still the game. We're playing that.
Doors open at 5:30 and first pitch is scheduled for 6 p.m. We'll have a recap of the game tonight at 10. For now, at Arvest Ballpark, Robin Hearn, 5 News Sports.
All right, Robin, thanks. The Walton Arts Center just unveiled its next season of must-see Broadway hits, calling the lineup monumental. We'll reveal some of the hits that you will have you laughing, dancing, maybe even putting your detective skills to the test.
I hope that people remember how everyone supported each other.
And we're reflecting 5 years after the World Health Organization declared the COVID pandemic. Well, believe it or not, it's been 5 years since the COVID pandemic swept across the world. It was the beginning of a wave of illness that took millions of lives. Bradley Blackburn takes us back to the front lines with the story of a man who survived after going into cardiac arrest.
In March 2020, when the world locked down, Sal Mazzara remembers the moment he felt symptoms.
Then I had the fever, the cough was persistent. Then sweats.
The father of two from New York already had a lung condition, so when he struggled to breathe, his wife Josephine drove him to Mount Sinai Hospital.
I could not believe what was going on, that I was just dropping my husband off at the hospital and wasn't sure if we were going to see him again.
This was an epicenter right here.
Yeah, it was.
Critical care doctor Sanam Ahmed remembers when the hospital filled up and tents were set up in Central Park. The city used refrigerated trucks to hold the bodies. While her own 4 children were in lockdown at home, she treated countless patients on the brink of death.
I've never seen so much tragedy in a short period of time.
Sal spent weeks on a ventilator. He needed a tracheotomy and suffered a cardiac arrest. His family couldn't be by his side.
We're probably going to take that trach out.
Dr. Ahmed was.
Sal.
Hi.
How you feeling?
I'm feeling great.
Yeah?
So happy.
If you had a cardiac arrest, it was extremely unlikely that you would survive, and Sal did.
After 45 days, Sal left Mount Sinai to go home.
5 years.
Last week, for the first time since 2020.
Hi, Sal. It's so good to see you.
Right, nice
you
to
look
see you.
so good.
Yes, thank you.
Doctor
thank you.
and patient met again.
Oh, never forgot you, and I thank you for everything every day.
A family that will never stop saying thank you.
My hero, right here.
Thank you.
And reminding others what it took to survive.
I hope that people remember how everyone supported each other.
Bradley Blackburn, CBS News, New York.
We're also learning there was a drop in language, cognitive development, and general knowledge among kids during the pandemic. That, according to a study published in JAMA. It's also believed the lack of play and in-person interaction played a big role in that decline. However, study's authors point out that language and cognitive development scores were dropping even before the pandemic.
Take a live look outside. Nice clear sky, beautiful blue skies out there. And Fayetteville winds are out of the south, kind of breezy at times, gusting as high as 15 to 20 miles per hour. Looking back off towards the southwest there, towards the 71B 49 interchange. In Ozark, skies clear as well. Notice this, there's a lot of smoke out there area wide. I've counted numerous prescribed burns out there today. Here's a live look at one of them. We're looking up towards the southwest. This mountain range here, that's going to be the Mount Magazine, just to give you some context as to where we're looking. That southerly wind's breezy, which is pushing a lot of that smoke towards the north. You're probably going to notice that over the next couple of days. High pressure situated just off to our south continues to push in those warm southerly winds. Meanwhile, you'll notice the winds start to shift a little bit around this area of low pressure, which is off to our west. That's our next weather system. It's somewhat stationary right now, but by tomorrow, especially tomorrow evening, it will bring some chances of rain, maybe a couple of thunderstorms as well. Before that gets here, we're going to have ample time to warm up. We're talking upper 70s, low 80s again tomorrow afternoon. We do have that potential of a couple of strong to severe storms tomorrow. It's the round 1 of 2 that we're tracking for you this week. This looks a little bit different than it did last evening. Here's the changes. Number 1, it's been upgraded to a level 2. That's out of a 5, so we're still talking generally on the lower end of the scale. But that level 1 here in green inched a little bit further into parts of northwest Arkansas. Those in the level 2 potential include Poteau, Heavener, Wester, Fort Smith, Van Buren, Alma, Greenwood, Paris, Boonville, Waldron, Charleston, Calksville, Lavaca, as far north as Alma. In northwest Arkansas, not everyone's included in that risk. In fact, it's pretty much for Fayetteville, points off towards the south. Good majority of folks not included in that risk, but that doesn't mean you might not see some rain. Doesn't mean you might not hear some thunder. Most of tomorrow is going to be dry. It's tomorrow evening when that wave of showers and storms begin to move into the area. This is 9:30. It's pretty scattered in nature. Hail and damaging winds probably going to be our primary concern with this system, although the tornado threat, while it's low, it's not zero, unfortunately. This is 10:30 tomorrow evening. A lot of this pushing from the southwest to the northeast, and by midnight, it looks like a lot of us are tapering things off. So that window probably at this point between 8 p.m. and midnight for the most severe storms. Even then, again, we're looking at a level 2 potential. So this isn't historic. It's not the biggest event we're going to see this spring, but it is certainly something we want to track closely. Hail and wind, your primary concerns. I'm keeping that in the medium category for now. We'll keep tornado and flooding rather low, not necessarily zero. We get to Friday, and I've got some good news. To be clear, there's still a severe weather potential on Friday, but it looks like the better ingredients really continue to come together just off to our east. And because of that, the Storm Prediction Center has slightly shifted our risk zone to the east to accommodate that. With that said, it looks like we could still see some storms develop pretty much right on top of us. But as they track towards the east by Friday afternoon into Friday evening, that's where they get a little bit better organized. Sure, could that change? Yeah, it's possible. So let's track it closely. But I'll tell you, I'm feeling a little bit better this afternoon than I was even yesterday when it comes to Friday. Your 7-day forecast shows this. Warm the next few days. Here's that chance of rain and storms on Friday. It's going to be a windy day. Those winds with that storm system, non-thunderstorm winds, so we're talking standard old winds, 20 to 40 miles per hour. Behind it, we do get a little bit cooler by this weekend. Saturday and Sunday highs down into the 60s. We're going to be dry though. That's great news. If you don't have weekend plans, gosh, it's one of those that you don't want to be sitting inside this weekend. Make plans to get out and enjoy it. Back in the 70s by Monday and Tuesday of next week, just given that level 2 potential of some severe storms tomorrow. We'll go with the 5 News weather impact alert for Wednesday for just the River Valley.
All right.